My parents took most of my wardrobe away as punishment, and I said I didn't want the clothes back because it's obvious they're not actually mine. My parents had this weird thing where they thought taking away my stuff was the ultimate punishment for everything. Bad grades, no phone, forgot to do dishes, no car. But this time, they went way too far. I came home from school on a Friday, and my mom was standing in my room with like 3 garbage bags full of my clothes. She had this smug look on her face and told me that since I couldn't keep my room clean, I obviously didn't deserve to have nice things. The punishment was that I could only have 3 outfits for the next month. Here's the thing though, most of those clothes weren't even bought by them. I had a part-time job at this pizza place since I was 15, and I'd been buying my own clothes for over a year. I have receipts in my desk drawer for probably 70% of what was in those bags. But when I tried to tell my mom this, she just rolled her eyes and said that since I lived under their roof, everything belonged to them. That weekend was torture. I had to wear the same jeans and hoodie everywhere because the only other clothes I had left were pajamas and this weird formal outfit that my grandma bought me that didn't even fit right. My friends kept asking why I looked like a homeless person, and I was too embarrassed to tell them the truth. Monday morning comes, and I'm getting ready for school in the same gross hoodie, when my mom starts lecturing me again about responsibility and how this was all a learning experience. That's when something just clicked in my brain. I looked at her and said, "You know what? Keep the clothes. I obviously don't need them back since they're not actually mine anyway." She got this confused look and asked what I meant. So, I walked over to my desk, pulled out this manila folder where I kept all my receipts, and dumped it on my bed. I started separating them into piles. Clothes I bought, clothes they bought, shoes I bought, whatever. The pile of stuff I bought was way bigger. "Since everything in this house belongs to you guys," I said, "I guess I should return all the stuff that's actually mine. I'll need cash, though, since I use my own money." I started adding up the receipts with my phone calculator. It came to like $460. My mom's face went from smug to panic mode real quick. She tried to backtrack and say that's not what she meant, but I wasn't having it. I told her that if she wanted to play the everything belongs to us game, then she needed to buy back my stuff at full price since I clearly didn't own anything. My dad came in because he heard us arguing, and when I explained the situation and showed him the receipts, he just started laughing. Not like a mean laugh, but like he couldn't believe how stupid the whole thing was. He looked at my mom and said, "Beth, just give him his clothes back." But here's where it gets good. I told them I didn't want the clothes back anymore. I said that since they made it clear the stuff wasn't mine, I didn't feel comfortable wearing things that belonged to someone else. I asked them to donate everything to charity since it was obviously their property, to do whatever they wanted with. My mom tried to argue that I was being ridiculous, but my dad was still chuckling and told her she made her bed. He went to his wallet and counted out $140, which was what my receipts showed they had actually paid for. He handed it to me and said I could use it for new clothes. The best part was watching my mom realize she was going to have to explain to people why her 16-year-old son suddenly had no clothes. My aunt came over that weekend and asked why I was wearing the same outfit I had on 3 days earlier. My mom had to admit what happened, and my aunt just stared at her like she was insane. I used the money my dad gave me plus some of my own savings to buy a completely new wardrobe. It actually ended up being better than my old clothes because I was more careful about what I picked. I carefully chose each piece, thinking about what I actually needed and what I would wear to school and work. And I ended up with a mix of basics, a couple of statement pieces, and even a jacket I had been eyeing for months but never bought, because my parents always complained about money. And it felt incredible walking into school that Monday feeling like I had control over something, for the first time in months, knowing that all the clothes I was wearing were truly mine, bought with my own money or the small reimbursement my dad gave me. And I noticed the looks on my classmates' faces, a mix of curiosity and admiration, and even some envy, which made me grin. And when I walked past my parents' room to grab my backpack that morning, I could hear my mom muttering something about how she couldn't believe I had managed to get a whole new wardrobe. And I just shrugged and smiled because this wasn't about them. It was about me finally feeling like I had a say in my own life. And I started thinking about how I could take this newfound confidence and use it in other areas, like standing up for myself more at school, negotiating chores, and maybe even saving a little for a car. And by the end of the week, I had made small changes, like insisting on paying for my own snacks at lunch and refusing to let my mom dictate which friends I could invite over. And it felt empowering, like a weight had been lifted. And soon I realized that the clothes weren't just clothes, they were a symbol, a reminder that I could assert boundaries, and that sometimes adults don't automatically have the right to control everything in a teenager's life. And I found myself thinking about past incidents where I had been silenced or brushed aside, And for the first time, I didn't feel powerless. I felt like I had leverage, and I even started using it to gently push back against unfair rules, like bedtime on weekends and curfew extensions. And I noticed my dad subtly supporting me in little ways, like suggesting I pick my own outfits for family events, and even complimenting me on my choices. While my mom, though still skeptical, began to show signs of understanding, realizing that taking control of small things didn't mean I was being disrespectful. It meant I was growing up, and this shift in dynamics gave me the courage to tackle other areas, like asking for a raise at my part-time job, which I had been too timid to do before, and I was nervous at first. But walking into the manager's office wearing the jacket I had bought with my own money made me feel capable and assertive, and I ended up negotiating an extra $2 an hour, which made me feel like I was finally claiming my own space in the adult world. And all of these small victories compounded, building my confidence so that even when my mom started nagging about chores or grades, I could calmly explain why I deserve some autonomy without it turning into a full-blown argument. And the sense of pride and independence I felt translated into my schoolwork, where I started participating more, raising my hand, and even joining the debate club because I realized if I could stand up to my parents over clothes, I could certainly stand up in front of a room full of peers. And by the time the next month rolled around, I had completely reorganized my room, decorating it with items I actually liked rather than things my parents assumed I would wear or use. And I felt a sense of ownership over my life that I hadn't experienced before. And it was amazing how something as simple as clothes could spark a chain reaction, making me more responsible, confident, and assertive, while also forcing my parents to see me as a capable individual rather than a child to micromanage. And eventually my mom even apologized for overstepping, admitting that she had been trying to control me out of habit rather than necessity. And it felt good to forgive her, not because she necessarily deserved it, but because holding on to resentment didn't feel as important as moving forward. And from that moment on, every time I got dressed, I reminded myself that I had earned this autonomy. And it became a mantra for other aspects of my life, from managing my finances, planning for college, forming friendships on my terms, and setting personal goals. And it all started with a simple act of reclaiming my wardrobe, which taught me that standing up for yourself in small ways can lead to monumental changes in self-perception, family dynamics, and confidence. And by the end of the semester, I had transformed not only my closet but my entire approach to life, knowing that I could take charge and that my choices mattered. And I walked through the hallways with my head held high, proud of the independence I had carved out, knowing that no matter what challenges arose, I had proven to myself that I could assert my boundaries, protect my possessions, and shape my future with my own hands. Story to my wife's dad set my wedding suit on fire in front of me right before the ceremony, laughing as the fabric burned. "Now you can't marry my daughter," he declared. I calmly said, "You have no idea what you just did," and he panicked. When I Chapter 1, the wedding day inferno, I had always known my fiancé's father hated me. He was a retired Army colonel, stern, proud, and obsessed with social class. From the day I met him, he'd made it clear I was beneath his daughter. I wasn't born into money. I didn't go to an Ivy League school. I was just a self-made man. I ran a small but growing tech startup, wore secondhand sneakers, and still helped my mom pay rent. But I loved his daughter, Aisha, with everything in me. And she loved me back fiercely against his wishes. So when we decided to get married, we expected resistance. But what we got was a declaration of war. The morning of the wedding was bright and full of promise. I stood outside the dressing suite of the wedding venue, the tailor-fitted navy suit hanging inside. Aisha had messaged me sweetly, "Almost ready. I love you. Don't cry when you see me in the dress." I smiled to myself. After years of working through long distance, her father's passive aggression and sleepless nights building my company, this moment felt like a dream. Then came Colonel Hamid. He strolled into the hallway with two of his old army buddies. His face was stone cold, but there was something dangerous in his eyes, like a storm that had finally decided to hit land. Without a word, he marched into the dressing suite, locked the door from inside, and moments later, I saw it. Smoke, then flames. I banged on the door. "What the hell are you doing?" "Open it." The door flew open, and there he stood, grinning like a madman as my wedding suit burned in his hands, the fabric curling and blackening with every lick of fire. "Now you can't marry my daughter," he sneered. "She deserves a real man, not an orphan with a laptop." His friends laughed like schoolboys behind him. I was frozen, not out of fear, but in shock at the cruelty. He dropped the ashes of the suit at my feet like some ancient war offering. "She'll thank me one day." I didn't say a word. I just looked him dead in the eye, calm and composed, and whispered, "You have no idea what you just did." That wiped the smirk off his face because what he didn't know was who I really was. Chapter 2. "Do you even know who I am?" The wedding planner ran in moments later, panicking at the smoke, and started yelling into a walkie-talkie for fire extinguishers and emergency backup suits. The guests were still arriving. No one knew what had just happened behind the scenes, not yet. But Colonel Hamid knew. And I could tell that little phrase I left him with was rattling around in his head, like a warning siren. He followed me outside the dressing suite. "You're bluffing," he snapped. "What are you going to do now? Cry to your mother?" That did it. I turned slowly to face him, and I said calmly so he'd hear every word. "You want the truth, Colonel? I'm not just some orphan with a laptop. I'm the majority investor in Ridgeway Holdings, the company that acquired your pension fund last quarter, and the venue you're standing in right now. I bought it last month under a different name." His mouth parted, confused. His two military friends exchanged awkward glances. I stepped closer, voice still low and razor-sharp. "This wedding, I paid for everything, not just the venue, but the catering, the decoration, the suit fittings, the dresses, the hotel rooms for your guests, your cigars, your scotch, and even your ride here today. The limo. That's my company fleet." His face drained of color. "You didn't just burn a suit, Colonel," I finished. "You burned a bridge, and you did it in front of your entire family." He looked like he'd been struck across the face. Just then, my best man walked out, holding a backup tuxedo I'd prepared weeks ago, just in case of emergency sabotage. I took it, nodded, and calmly walked back toward the suite, but not before whispering over my shoulder, "Enjoy the ceremony. I'll make sure the photos capture your expression today. It's priceless." Chapter 3, the ceremony no one will ever forget. I walked back into the venue with confidence, dressed in a jet black tuxedo that radiated silent defiance. My best man adjusted my collar and whispered, "You look like vengeance in human form." Guests turned, some murmured, confused about the change of attire. Others clapped lightly, unaware of the chaos that had just taken place, but not her father. He was standing near the aisle, sipping champagne with smug satisfaction. His grin vanished the moment he saw me. The glass slipped from his hand and shattered. I walked up to him slowly and said, just loud enough for the nearby guests to hear, "You have no idea what you just did." He swallowed. "What are you talking about?" I leaned in and whispered, "The cameras, old man. You were filmed torching a suit worth $10,000 on private property. With premeditation." His face turned a sickly pale. "You're bluffing." I nodded to the venue staff. One of them rolled out a small TV on a stand. I hit play. There he was on screen, laughing like a madman as he poured lighter fluid on the suit and flicked the match. Gasps filled the room. The bride's family looked horrified. I turned to the stunned guests and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption, but I felt it important to show everyone the kind of man who tried to sabotage this day." The officiant stood frozen. My fiancé ran down the aisle toward me, panicked. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know he'd go this far." I nodded gently. "Do you still want to marry me?" She nodded through tears more than ever. I turned to the guests, "Then let's get married," as the ceremony resumed. Her father was escorted out, silent, defeated, and facing criminal charges. But this was only the beginning. Chapter 4, the backlash. The wedding went on flawlessly. The vows, the kiss, the applause, all more powerful after the chaos that came before. But outside those walls, a storm was brewing. The video of her father torching my suit had already been uploaded. My best man, a low-key genius with PR experience, posted it to a wedding blog with the caption, "Groom stays calm as bride's father attempts to sabotage wedding. Justice was served within hours." It went viral. The comments rolled in like waves. "That man deserves a standing ovation. Imagine being so toxic you try to ruin your daughter's happiness." This groom handled it like a boss. And her father, oh, he was done. Fallout begins. The local police contacted me the very next day. I pressed charges, not just for arson, but for attempted intimidation. The venue owner joined in, citing property damage and endangerment of guests. His mugshot was soon plastered across news sites. Even worse, he was the CEO of a small but notable local company. Or rather, he had been. His board forced him to step down within 48 hours of the video going viral. He lost sponsorship deals. He was mocked online, roasted in interviews, and became the face of entitled father-in-law fails. But while the world laughed, my focus was elsewhere, protecting my wife. She was devastated, humiliated by her own father's actions, and terrified that people might blame her. I assured her they wouldn't, and I was right. People rallied behind us. We received messages from complete strangers, wedding venues offering free honeymoons, and even a law firm offering to handle the lawsuit pro bono. But there was one more twist left. Final chapter. Do you even know who I am? A week after the wedding, I received a call from a local journalist. He was doing a follow-up story on the viral wedding incident. "I'd like to include a small piece about you," he said. "But out of curiosity before I publish anything, can you confirm something?" Go ahead, I replied. Are you Daniel Rodas? The same Daniel Rodas who created the emergency response software adopted by the National Health System last year? I smiled. Yes, I am. Silence on the other end. Holy, that explains everything. The revelation that changed everything you see. I wasn't just some guy marrying a girl from a wealthy family. I was a guy. A self-made tech entrepreneur. The founder of a cybersecurity startup acquired for millions. The man who now consulted for federal agencies and designed critical systems for hospitals and emergency infrastructure. I had never publicized it much. I kept a low profile. My focus had always been my daughter and now my new wife. But her father hadn't done his homework. He assumed I was beneath him, a disposable groom. The final blow. So when the journalist ran the full article, Tech Visionary's wedding sabotaged by bride's father. What he didn't know will shock you. It blew up again. But this time, it wasn't just wedding drama. It was humiliation on a national level. TV stations picked it up. Business blogs dissected it. People dug into her father's financial history. Turns out he'd been quietly draining his own company's funds, trying to sustain his ego-driven lifestyle. With his reputation in ashes and shareholders panicking, the board didn't just oust him. They began criminal proceedings. His assets were frozen, his home seized, and the final dagger. The charity gala, where he was scheduled to receive a Businessman of the Year award. I was invited in his place. I accepted. And when I stepped on that stage, I said, to everyone who thinks you can destroy others for power, for control, for pride, just remember, sometimes the quiet ones in the back of the room are the very people who hold the strings to your entire kingdom. Epilogue. My wife and I spent our honeymoon in Florence, Italy, surrounded by art, music, and peace. We didn't speak of her father. We didn't need to. The world had already answered for us. And as we walked down cobbled streets hand in hand, she whispered to me with a smile, he thought he broke you. But all he did was write your legend. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice and share the story with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Revenge Exposed because here betrayals don't sleep. They hunt their owners. Every shadow hides a reckoning. Every mask breaks and every betrayal is answered. Stay sharp. Stay unbroken. Stay tuned.